Mark stands in the rain outside his parents' house, a single bag in hand, watching his father lock the door. I never thought choosing to build homes for others would leave me homeless, but that's what happens when your passion doesn't match your family's expectations. I was always the family golden boy. "Mark's going places," my father would tell his golf buddies, his voice swelling with pride. And, technically, he wasn't wrong. After graduating top of my class in architecture from Cornell, I had 5 job offers waiting. The most prestigious came from Grayson and Harper, a firm known for designing glass and steel monuments to corporate excess. 6 figures starting salary, corner office views, and the promise of partnership within 5 years. The kind of offer that makes parents brag at neighborhood barbecues. I remember the day I accepted it. My father opened an 18-year-old scotch he'd been saving. "This is what we sacrificed for," he said, clinking glasses with my mother, who wiped away proud tears. My brother James looked at me with a mixture of jealousy and admiration. I was fulfilling the Callahan family destiny, success measured in square footage and decimal points. But something happened during my final internship. I was assigned to a luxury high-rise project, 52 stories of premium condos starting at $3 million each. I spent 14-hour days perfecting details that only the obscenely wealthy would ever see, while walking past homeless encampments on my way to the office. One evening, my supervisor casually mentioned scrapping affordable housing units from the design to maximize profit margins. Something inside me cracked. I started researching alternatives during lunch breaks, hiding my screen whenever someone walked by. That's when I discovered the tiny home movement. Not just minimalist living spaces, but a radical reimagining of what home could mean. Sustainable materials, zero carbon footprints, and most importantly, accessibility. Homes people could actually afford. Homes that didn't destroy the planet. Homes with purpose beyond status. The more I researched, the more the gleaming Grayson and Harper future began to tarnish before my eyes. I spent weekends visiting tiny home communities, meeting builders who spoke about architecture with a passion I'd never heard in corporate conference rooms. I saw families who'd escaped crushing mortgages now living debt-free. I watched children playing in community gardens instead of being isolated in sprawling suburban fortresses. My excitement grew until it couldn't be contained. I started sketching my own designs late into the night, my hands trembling with a creative energy I hadn't felt since freshman year. I calculated costs, sourced materials, and even spoke with a small builder willing to apprentice me. For the first time in years, I fell asleep with purpose rather than anxiety. "I've got something important to tell everyone," I announced at Sunday dinner, 2 weeks before my Grayson and Harper start date. The table went quiet. Announcements at Callahan family dinners were usually reserved for promotions, engagements, or property acquisitions. My mother's eyes lit up, probably expecting news about a down payment on a condo. My father leaned forward, scotch in hand, expectant smile already forming. "I've decided to turn down Grayson and Harper," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "I'm going to build tiny homes instead." The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the antique grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. 3 seconds that stretched into eternity. "You're going to what?" My father's glass hit the table hard enough to slosh expensive scotch onto my mother's immaculate tablecloth. I pulled out my tablet, hands slightly shaking with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. "Let me show you what I'm talking about. These homes are sustainable, affordable, beautifully designed. You're throwing away a partnership track position to build glorified trailer homes." His voice rose with each word, face flushing the dangerous crimson that usually preceded his most volcanic eruptions. "They're not trailer homes, Dad. They're architectural innovations that could help solve the housing crisis. I'd be doing something that actually matters." I'll never forget what happened next. The moment that changed everything between us. Matters? My father slammed his fist on the table, rattling fine china and sending my mother's carefully arranged centerpiece askew. What matters is that you're about to throw away everything we've worked for, everything we've sacrificed to give you. I tried to keep my voice level. I appreciate everything you've done, but this is my life. Your life? He stood so abruptly, his chair toppled backward with a crash. Your life has been built on our backs. The tuition, the internships I pulled strings for, the connections we've made for you. My mother reached for his arm. Robert, please. He yanked away from her. No, Catherine, he needs to hear this. His finger jabbed the air inches from my face. You don't throw away opportunities like this. Not in this family. I'm not throwing anything away, I countered, my own voice rising now. I'm choosing a different path, one with purpose. Purpose? He spat the word like poison. Purpose doesn't pay mortgages. Purpose doesn't build retirement accounts. Purpose is a luxury for people who don't have responsibilities. My brother James watched silently, eyes darting between us like he was at a tennis match with live grenades. My sister Eva stared at her plate, shoulders hunched as if trying to disappear. I pulled up photos on my tablet. Look at these designs. Look at the possibilities. I could build homes for teachers, nurses, people priced out of the market. The tablet flew across the room, slamming against the wall before clattering to the floor, screen spiderwebbed with cracks. My father stood there, chest heaving, hand still extended from the violent swipe. You ungrateful, sanctimonious little shit, he growled. The words felt like physical blows. You think you're better than us with your noble causes? Who do you think paid for the moral high ground you're standing on? I stood to face him, adrenaline coursing through me. This isn't about being better than anyone. It's about not wasting my life building monuments for billionaires when people are sleeping on sidewalks. His hand connected with my cheek before I could react, the slap echoing through the dining room. My mother gasped. Eva began to cry silently. Robert! My mother finally found her voice. I touched my burning face, tasting blood where my tooth had cut my inner cheek. We stood there, father and son, separated by 3 feet and an unbridgeable ideological chasm. If you turn down that job, he said, voice deadly quiet now, you're no longer welcome in this house. You're no longer a Callahan. Dad, that's insane, James finally spoke. You can't just disown? Stay out of this. My father roared without looking at him. I searched my mother's face for support, for any sign she might defend me. Her eyes met mine for just a moment before dropping to her lap. That silence hurt more than my father's slap. You have until morning to make your decision, my father continued. Take the job or take your things and get out. I've already made my decision. The words left my mouth with a calmness I didn't feel. What followed plays in slow motion when I remember it. My father pointing toward the stairs. My mother's quiet sobs. The mechanical act of packing my life into 2 suitcases and a backpack. Eva slipping me an envelope with her babysitting money when no one was looking. James standing in my doorway, conflicted and silent, before awkwardly offering a handshake that turned into a brief, fierce hug. You're making a huge mistake, were his final whispered words. By midnight, I stood on the porch with my belongings. My father appeared one last time, holding my car keys. Your car is in your mother's name, he said flatly, dropping the keys into my outstretched palm. I'm not that cruel, but it's the last thing you'll get from us. The door closed with finality. Through the beveled glass, I watched my family's silhouettes recede into the house I'd grown up in, a house that was no longer my home. Rain began to fall as I loaded my meager possessions into the trunk. I had $3,200 in savings, no job, nowhere to go, and a crushed tablet containing all my tiny home research and designs. I sat in the driver's seat, rain drumming on the roof, and allowed myself exactly 5 minutes to break down completely. Then I wiped my eyes, started the engine, and drove away from everything I'd ever known. For 3 weeks, I lived in my car, parking behind a 24-hour gym where I'd shower and change before anyone noticed. I stretched my savings by eating ramen cooked on a camping stove and worked odd jobs found on Craigslist. Painting, yard work, anything that paid cash. Each night, I sketched tiny home designs by the light of a battery-powered lamp, rebuilding my portfolio from memory on cheap notepads. One rainy afternoon, I was huddled in a coffee shop nursing a single black coffee when I overheard a man at the next table struggling with contractor quotes for a community project. "Excuse me," I said, gathering my courage. "I couldn't help overhearing. I'm an architect. Maybe I could help?" Jeff Sanderson ran a nonprofit building emergency shelters. When I showed him my tiny home sketches, his eyes widened. "This is exactly what we've been looking for. More dignified than typical shelters, but still affordable. Can you actually build these?" "I can learn," I said with more confidence than I felt. Jeff introduced me to Miguel, a master carpenter who agreed to take me on as an apprentice in exchange for my design expertise. I moved into a spare room above his workshop and spent 16-hour days learning to translate my drawings into reality, my hands blistering then callousing as they learned the language of wood and metal. 6 months of brutal labor later, we completed our first prototype, a 220-square-foot marvel of efficiency and elegance. The day Emma, a kindergarten teacher priced out of her apartment, moved in and burst into tears of joy at having a home she could actually afford, I knew I'd made the right choice. I worked without days off, pouring everything into learning the craft. While my former classmates designed vacation homes for the ultra-wealthy, I was solving real problems with my hands. We scaled up from 1 unit to 4, then 10. A local news station did a feature on our Housing Heroes project. Our waiting list grew. I hired 2 more builders. Then came the break that changed everything. Lisa Chen, a prominent environmental journalist, featured our work in a major magazine spread titled "The Future of Housing." The article highlighted not just the affordability and sustainability of our homes, but the community we were building. Shared gardens, common spaces, people from all walks of life supporting each other. "Mark Callahan isn't just building tiny homes," she wrote. "He's reimagining what American neighborhoods could be." The morning the article published, my phone exploded with interest. Investors wanted meetings. 3 municipalities contacted us about zoning pilot programs. A developer offered to fund a 100-unit community if I'd oversee the project. That evening, I sat on the roof of my own tiny home. Yes, I'd finally built one for myself on a small plot of land I'd managed to purchase. Watching the sunset with a cold beer and a surreal sense of vindication. 2 years earlier, I'd been sleeping in my car, disowned and directionless. Now I was leading a movement. The phone call came as darkness fell. "Mark?" The voice was hesitant, strained. "It's James." My brother. 2 years of silence broken by 2 syllables. "I saw the article," he continued when I didn't respond. "Dad saw it too." My hand tightened around the phone. "And?" James sighed. "He's complicated. You know how he is. But Mom's been miserable since you left. We all have been." I said nothing, letting the weight of estrangement hang between us. "They want to see what you've built," James finally said. "All of us do, if that's okay with you." My chest tightened with a hurricane of emotions. Anger, hope, vindication, fear. "Sunday," I said finally. "You can come Sunday." As I ended the call, I gazed across my thriving community. 26 homes now, housing people who'd otherwise be priced out of dignity. I'd built something real here. something that mattered. And in 3 days, my family would see exactly what their golden boy had become without their gold. Sunday arrived with cruel perfection. Blue skies, gentle breeze, our community garden in full bloom. I'd given my residents a heads up. Family visiting, the ones who kicked me out. No further explanation needed. They'd heard my story over shared meals and campfires. By noon, the place hummed with casual activity, a strategic display of communal prosperity. I spotted my father's Mercedes first, incongruous against our gravel parking area. Then my mother emerging, elegant as always but notably thinner. James and Eva followed, Eva's hand protectively cradling a baby bump I hadn't known about. My sister was pregnant. I had missed so much. Mark. My mother reached me first, hesitating before embracing me with desperate strength. I returned the hug, surprised by how much I'd missed her smell. Chanel and home-baked bread. James shook my hand, then pulled me into a bear hug. Good to see you, brother. Eva simply cried and held on to me. My father stood back, hands in pockets, examining everything but me. He'd aged dramatically, hair completely silver now, deeper lines around his eyes, a slight stoop to formerly perfect posture. "Hello, Dad," I said evenly. He nodded stiffly. "Mark." No apology. I hadn't expected one. I led them through our community, the shared workshop where we trained new builders, the community kitchen where residents took turns preparing group meals, the playground built from reclaimed materials where children played without fear of traffic. With each step, my family's expressions shifted from skeptical politeness to genuine awe. "You designed all of this?" James asked, examining a clever storage system. "And built most of it," I replied, "with help." My mother touched the living wall of an herb garden. "It's beautiful, Mark. Not what I expected." I showed them one of our newest homes, 440 square feet of perfectly optimized space, built for a hospital nurse named Dahlia. The interior gleamed with natural light, reflecting off bamboo floors and quartz countertops. "This cost her $47,000, I explained. "No mortgage. She owns it outright. Monthly expenses under $200, including utilities." "That's impossible," my father finally spoke, examining the craftsmanship with professional scrutiny. "It's not just possible, it's repeatable." I handed him our financial breakdowns. "We're profitable, sustainable, and our residents save an average of 70% compared to traditional housing." We ended at my home, slightly larger than the others, with an attached design studio. The back deck overlooked a meadow where residents practiced yoga together. As Eva and James explored inside with my mother, my father remained on the deck, staring out at the horizon. "I came to gloat," he said suddenly, "to find proof you'd failed so I could bring you home." I leaned against the railing beside him. "I know. Instead, I find this." He gestured at the community. "You've built something extraordinary." The admission cost him visibly. His hands gripped the railing until his knuckles whitened. "You were right," he continued, "and I was wrong, catastrophically wrong." I watched a hummingbird dart among the flowers below. "I didn't do this to prove you wrong, Dad. That almost makes it worse." He turned to face me fully. "Grayson and Harper is designing sterile luxury boxes while you're revolutionizing housing." The irony would be amusing if it weren't so damned humbling. I saw then what this visit truly cost him. Not just admitting he was wrong, but confronting that his entire value system might be flawed. "We've missed you," he said quietly. "Your mother most of all." "I've missed you too," I admitted, surprising myself with the truth of it. He extended his hand formally. I took it, then pulled him into the hug he couldn't ask for but desperately needed. He stiffened, then collapsed against me, his body shaking with silent sobs. Over his shoulder, I saw my residents watching discreetly from the community garden, witnesses to a reconciliation they'd helped make possible. Later, as my family prepared to leave, my father pressed a business card into my palm. An investor friend. He's interested in scaling your model nationally. Call him. Or don't. It's your choice. Always was. After they drove away, I sat on my deck watching nightfall, the community lights twinkling on one by one. I'd once imagined my revenge would feel triumphant, throwing success in my father's face, rejecting any overture. Instead, it felt like building a bridge across a chasm I'd thought uncrossable. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Sunday dinners. Please come home sometimes. We have a lot to rebuild. I looked out at the community I'd created. Homes built from nothing but conviction and stubborn hope. If I could build this from scratch, perhaps a family could be rebuilt too. Not as it was, but as something new. Something better. After all, I was in the business of second chances now, of making something beautiful from what others had discarded. And I was very, very good at my job.